joining us now to talk about all these and more issues, Hilary Calvert, who's recovered from your operation. You had an operation. Have you recovered from it, Hilary?
Well, it's a journey because I had both my hips replaced. So it's not an
really?
instant,
Both of them?
off you go.
Holy moly. That's a massive operation. And they did it at the same time, Hilary?
In some ways, too, at once at least stops you walking in some sorts of ways out of kilter. But, yeah, so I'm on the road to recovery, and apparently after 4 to 6 weeks I'm going to be able to play pickleball, which I've never played before. So I'm looking forward to that.
Tell me, I'm fascinated because you're the third person I've met in the last 24 hours who's either had or about to have a hip replacement operation. So, and I'm always interested, did you do a lot of sport or running or something like that so that you ended up in that position, or do you think it's genetic?
No, I think it's genetic, although my suspicion is that genetically people who are more tempted to moving about the planet are also genetically more likely to have their hips. It's the cartilage that goes between your two bones.
So you mean it's the more exercise you do, the more likely you are to wear down the joint?
Well, that happens, but I think you're probably genetically, some people seem to be more likely to exercise than others too. But whatever, it's what you're doing with your knees and hips is you're recreating cartilage constantly to sort of look after the bits between the joints. My replacement of cartilage didn't work as well. So
I see. So you think that part could be genetic?
Yeah, and my father had both his hips done at once 30 years ago, and my sister and my brother. I mean, quite clearly genetic component.
No, I've listen, and you're the third person I've talked to, and none of you are overweight, so you certainly aren't. Neither are the two other men that I've talked to, one in their 40s, one in their 70s, in actual fact, who need a hip replacement operation. But so it's not bad lifestyle. It's just, I guess, we're getting older, and as we get older, we tend to ail.
And if it's heavier people, it's their knees more likely. Your knees are put under huge pressure compared with your hips. And if you're heavier, you're more likely to need your knees done, and it's more complex as an operation.
Oh, really,
and
is it?
Yeah, and it's harder because you mightn't have been doing as much exercise in advance, and exercises are crucial for your knees. So you look around people who have their knees done, and they're either sort of athletes or they're bigger people, more likely. Unlike hips.
No, I've had my knee done, and again that was due to running. In actual fact, it was a running injury.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Athletes or bigger people.
Okay. So it's done under general. Obviously, they do it both at the same time. How long before? Is it 4 to 6 weeks before you can actually sort of run? Is that right?
Before you can resume normal
sport
things. I think.
Yeah.
So, all good.
Well, now the other thing that I heard, was the postcode lottery when it comes to this kind of thing, that very difficult to get an operation in certain parts of the country. Apparently Otago is one of the worst for orthopaedic surgery. Did you have yours done in Otago or some other province?
I had mine done in Christchurch.
Yeah, there you go.
And I got a letter, a snotty letter, and I won't mention where it came from.
I know exactly where it came from. It came from a place with a capital M, right?
Yes, but there's more than one lot of surgeons there. And it wasn't Prof. Glyn Jones's area. Anyway, I got this snooty letter back, having been referred to them, and they said, we triage these operations and we'll deal with yours based on condition and it may be some time.
Yes.
And I rang them and said, triaging A&E, that makes sense because, some people are dying of a heart attack and other people need a plaster. Triaging hips on the basis of a condition that you have no idea what condition I'm in, how's that going to work? I said, I can understand there's a waiting list, so, if you have to make it further out than I would like, then that's one thing. And I said, what do you do with people who are ACC people? She said the same. And I said, why don't you give people dates further out? And she said, because it just disappoints people. And I said, not if you do the operation on that date, it wouldn't. It just didn't, it wasn't a very good conversation, but it was clear to me once I went to someone in Christchurch who was found for me that the reason why I got that sort of letter was because there's not enough surgeons in Otago and they can behave that way. That is a crap way to provide a service.
Listen,
a private referral. It's not a...
Yeah.
And you shouldn't be doing that with public people either. You should be giving them dates and things.
Yeah.
But if there was enough people in Otago, more surgeons in Otago, they would not write those sorts of letters.
Yes. That's. I have heard. You're the third person now, as I said, in the last 24 hours to tell me that they have got a hip or I need a hip or I'm about to have one, and you're the third person getting the same letter, and I have to say, and it's caused the same reaction from all of them, and they are all paying privately and got the money to do so. So there you go. It doesn't matter where they go.
Health insurance, ACC,
yep,
your own money, wherever it comes from.
Yep.
But it's, as I say, it suggests a lack of character to me, because if you behave that way when there's a shortage, then that's just your character, isn't it? You don't need to behave that way. Even if it's a shortage, you can deal with the shortage.
Yep. Yeah, fair enough. Listen,
anyway,
just on another matter to do with Dunedin, because Dunedin gets some bad press, but I have to say Dunedin's becoming a bit like Wellington. Wellington at the moment, I have to say, is a city that is under all sorts of question. The question that's been raised, of course, mostly is it dying? It's certainly depressed. There have been surveys about very unhappy citizens, and there have been a whole series of articles in the last few months about something that you and I probably would have noticed over the last few years, and that is that Wellington is not the vibrant city it once was, and it's quite a sad beast. But Dunedin's going through something very similar, I see. You've got another retailer blaming upgrades for closure in Dunedin as well, almost a similar argument. Both the Dunedin City Council and the Wellington City Council dominated by, or tended to be in the past, and certainly in this particular case, dominated by green left political factions, again, dedicated to pedestrianising particular areas, but again, having the consequent result of shutting up shops and George Street retailers, in particular in Dunedin, another one I see in heading their way as well. Is there a correlation at all between councils seeking to pedestrianise and put cycleways into particular CBDs and retailers shutting up, or is it just that retailers are doing it tough and they want to blame somebody?
I think that the combination of online shopping and COVID and a variety of things outside our control has come together with what I hope to be peak dumbass transport stuff, instead of trying to get people around the planet. And I notice they're talking now, they're keeping on saying cycling and walking, as if infrastructure's put into walking. I mean, really? People have always been able to walk, and in Wellington there's a lot of walking going on. But I think they're not listening to the position people are in, and they're only thinking of the planet somewhere on the other side of the world, or going to the next conference, instead of sitting and saying, our retailers are under huge stress at the moment. What would help our city would be things that would at least stop discouraging people coming to the middle of town and shopping. because there are some advantages in doing things. You can't have a coffee with somebody virtually, really. And you can't shop virtually for some things. I like to touch things, to see what they actually look like, feel like. If you had a city, and both Dunedin and Wellington have suffered from this, if you have a city that actually says, what can we do to make this not a stampede away from retail? Is there any way we can help? Could we make shopping more fun? Could we, whatever? And the Dunedin City Council, thinking that they had to counteract the effects of trying to get rid of anybody being able to drive anywhere, but having to go 3 times around the block if you did have to go to the middle of town, they put a seesaw in George Street.
Oh, yes, I saw that.
$600,000, a seesaw. Mm. And Wellington's got a similar, got a bike rack worth how much?
Yeah, $800,000, yeah.